Hey everyone, Reaper here again with another video. Man, there's been some crazy prices on some of these comic books and other things going on, right? Um, I get my updates from Instagram. I see photos on Instagram of what things are selling for when it comes to comic books and cards and even video games. And I'm just surprised at some of the prices that these things were going for. I know Nick made a video about this, I don't know, a week ago. This video is coming out at the end of February, so if you watch this maybe another year from now or a few months from now, it might be a little outdated. But still, I feel that talking about the prices that we're going through right now, like some of the surges in some on some of these books, is worth talking about anyway. What about some of the prices on some of these cards that are out there? In particular, I mean, I know a lot of the Marvel Masterpieces and other types of cards that came out in the early 90s, a lot of their sets, full sets, complete sets, unopened boxes are going for crazy prices. And I think it was about a year and a half ago, I had the opportunity to purchase an unopened tin Marvel Masterpieces box, and I just passed on it. I was like, nah, I should have bought it. Yeah, because the reason why I wanted that tin is because the Marvel Masterpieces cards, as some of you know that have watched my videos, really brought me into the superhero comic book collecting world. And I thought that they were the best cards out of all the few years that followed. When I collected more and more cards, I still thought that the first series done by Joe Jusko was the best. He's one of my favorite artists, and I told him that when I met him. And it was because of him that I got into the superhero comic book collecting, by looking at those cards. Anyway, I know with that tin case, 5 extra cards were included that weren't in the regular packs, and that's why I was looking at it. But like I said, no sense crying over spilt milk, but those cards and so many others have exploded. And I still have, as you know, I still have my old folder here that I put together back in 1993, 1994. As you can see, it's the same folder. I wrote all this back in 1992 and 93. I scribbled all over it. It's pretty much falling apart. And I put like doubles of cards in it and all that stuff. As you can see, some of them fell out over the years. But yeah, it's amazing to see how some of these cards are what they're selling for obviously complete unopened boxes. It's really amazing. Another thing I wanted to talk about, and I think it's been dying down a little bit, but it's still worth mentioning. For the last couple of weeks, like I said, this is being filmed at the end of February, so throughout February, maybe the end of January, the Deadpool card that has gone up. It's been selling by itself for a decent amount of money. I think for a while it was going up to maybe $100. Now, like I said, I think it's cooled off a bit, and I'll show you some recent sales through a screenshot. But still, that card alone, just for the card, no one cares about X-Force #1. They seem to be so concerned with the card. I just don't understand it. I mean, I don't know why there's an interest in some of these cards all of a sudden. But I guess maybe people that may have had them back in the day, who have grown up and become successful, and they're just dropping large amounts of money on these things, comics, cards, games, all that's included, and that's why they're selling for so much. But I just find it so interesting, and it made me go through one of my long boxes and dig out the 4 copies of X-Force #1 I have. Not all of them have the Deadpool card. Only one of them does. This is the one that I had when I was younger. I mean, I removed the poly bag, and it came with the Shatterstar card and all that. And here's another one. This one's bagged with the Shatterstar card. Okay. Sorry if you're getting a little bit of the glare. Normally, when would I ever show an X-Force #1 in any of my videos? Here's another one. This one has Sunspot and Gideon. I never really took time out to figure out how many different variants are there when it comes to cards. And of course, here's the one that people really wanted, well, largely because of the card, the Deadpool card. So I don't know, it's crazy. It's just something that's, I decided to make a video about this, and there's a couple other things I want to talk about that really took me by surprise. I remember, what was it, about a year ago, that a lot of comic book prices started to, either plateau or start to sink. And, well, now it seems like some of them are going for crazy money, or a lot more money. An example that I don't have to show you because I don't own it is when it comes to EC. And, I'm a big EC fan and all that. The Haunt of Fear, I believe it's number 17, not the origin issue. There are 2 Haunt of Fear number 17s. I know, it's confusing, right? 2 Haunt of Fear number 15 and 16s. It's actually the second one. The Graham Ingalls zombie cover, the 3 zombie covers, I believe that's number 17. Well, that one shot up like to crazy money. I remember you could get a nice mid-grade copy of that, like 5.0, 6.0, for maybe about $500, $550. Now you're looking to spend close to $1,300 on that in 5.0, 6.0. So I think maybe now that the reason why that has been shooting up is because people are starting to realize what a great classic cover it is, and I think it has the story Horror We House Bayou in it, and I think that's been said to be one of the best drawn horror stories of that era. So there's a lot of other things going for it, but I think people are starting to realize it. It's not a rare issue. There are a ton of them out there, but that doesn't mean anything. There are a ton of crime suspense 22s out there. It's the cover that really drives it. So anyway, some other books, just a couple more before I go, that I want to talk about. And I'll show you some recent sales that I've noticed have just really skyrocketed, excuse me. Here's one, giant size X-Men, and around this grade too. I have a 6.5, it's no big deal, right? It's a decent mid-grade copy. It looks nice. Maybe with a press, it looks like it could use a press. I bought this. This was the second, this was the second CGC book I ever purchased when I came back to the hobby. The first one was Incredible Hulk 181, and the second one was this one. The third was X-Men number 2, and then after that I start to forget what was number 4 and 5. But this was the second CGC, second slabbed book I ever purchased. And the case was a little cracked, and a couple years ago I think I showed a video where I sent it back to have the case replaced with something modern. Now, for those of you that are saying, well, when you came back to the hobby, they didn't have these cases, they didn't have this design. I know, I had it replaced because there was a crack in the peg. And a couple years ago at the New York Comic Con, I submitted this to have a new case. But from the looks of the cover, there's some areas that could use a press. Maybe it might come out to a 7.0. I don't know. But regardless, this is another one that's been shooting up. Now, I don't know what they're going to be doing with the X-Men when it comes to the MCU. I think Nick mentioned that he had the same idea I had, and I thought it's a very good idea. Not just because I thought of it, or Nick thought of it, because it makes sense. That, with all these Disney TV shows, when you have characters, a series that has a ton of characters like the X-Men, when you want to maybe do it right, if you could bring them into the movies, of course, and have their own movie series, but you could also flesh them out on these Disney TV shows, and they would, a series like the X-Men, all those characters, they would absolutely flourish in that environment. And then you could introduce them in certain other movies, and the movies of their own, and the way the Avengers worked out. They didn't have their TV series though, but like I was saying though, using a TV series format for X-Men and introducing these long story arcs like the Dark Phoenix and maybe a longer Days of Future Past and Inferno and, Executioner Song, whatever direction they're going to go, and prepping them for a major motion picture debut or another major motion picture, I think would be a great idea. So, like I said, I made a video I think a year ago that it would be great if that's what the MCU did when it comes to, introducing the X-Men in the giant size timeline. or in the time where Giant Size took place, instead of going all the way back to the beginning, how the X-Men were formed and all that. We've seen that over and over again. And it would be cool if they started the X-Men in the Giant Size era. But who knows? But that book, like I'll show you right now, yeah, 6.5, 7.0, even higher. They've been getting crazy prices. But yeah, that's just the way it's been going. And the last one I want to talk about, it's also X-Men related. And I'll show you a recent sale on Heritage. Which I stole from DS Comics because he posted it on IG and he even marked it up. And thanks, James. I'm going to use that. X-Men. X-Men #1. Now, I have a 3.0, and, this was a book that I purchased. When I came back to the hobby, one of the first books I got was X-Men #1. It was raw. And it wasn't this copy. I had a copy, for those of you who maybe watched my older videos where I showed it. I think my top 25 books in my collection from 2015 had it. That was #1 at the time. You could see that cover was a little faded, and I mentioned this before many times. So when I sold that one off to get my Amazing Fantasy 15, I was able to get this one a month later. And even though it's the same grade, it's much, much nicer. Much nicer than that other copy. But I was glad I got it when I did, which was now a few years ago. Saw the photo. A 1.5 sold for that much money? I mean, that's just insane. Now, here's another photo to show you. And that was a recent sale too. Those were 4.0. So, whether or not those 1.5s, those really, really low grades, maintain those price ranges, who knows? Maybe not, probably not. But it's just still something interesting to look at, something interesting to talk about. Because the X-Men, and I believe the Fantastic Four as well, they're just on fire. I think a lot of people are really wondering how these characters are going to be integrated in the MCU and Phase 4. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not excited about the Eternals at all. There's nothing about it that seems remotely interesting to me. That, my opinion, can change. If I see the movie and if I learn a little bit more about it and the direction in which it goes, my opinion can change. But as of right now, with the limited amount of information that we all have on it, I'm not overly excited about the Eternals. I couldn't care less about them, to be quite honest. I'm more excited about seeing how the X-Men are going to be involved and how the Fantastic Four is going to be involved and all the characters that are associated with them. People like the Silver Surfer, Galactus, Magneto, Mr. Sinister. I totally hope that Apocalypse shows up again if they're doing X-Men. And I hope we see Mr. Sinister. And again, getting back to that TV show format, stretching out those characters like Mr. Sinister and Apocalypse would be a wonderful way for the audience, us, to get the full scope of these characters, to flesh them out instead of introducing them in a movie and then 2 hours later the biggest threat that the X-Men ever faced is gone. It doesn't make sense. One of the reasons why I think Thanos works so well is because they changed him up a bit, of course. The whole idea of killing half of the universe's population so he can court death is kind of stupid. So they changed it up where he made it more of like an environmental thing, like, we're consuming so much, we're going to be starving, and all that stuff. I think that was pretty good. They could do something like that with Apocalypse. So I'm just saying, like, a lot of these books that may have plateaued, some of the other books like Apocalypse, Mr. Sinister, if they're going to use these characters and they intend to keep them around for a while like they did Thanos, there's some potential in those books shooting up too. So you might want to take a look at them. But for the things that I covered in this video, it's just crazy. I'm still taken aback by that 1.5. Now, before I go, there was another book I saw, it was some guy selling this, so it's different than a sold listing. You know, I showed you sold listings here in this video, but another one's been heating up is Batman 171. Does anybody have any information about that? You know, the first Silver Age appearance of the Riddler. I saw some guy trying to sell that, a 7.5. Trying to sell now. It's different. For almost $4,000. Am I missing something? You know, if that's what he wants, that's what he wants. But I'm just saying, I'm just completely taken by surprise by some of these prices. So let me know what you think in the comments about these prices. What's going on? What do you think is going to explode next? Because it seems like I have no idea. I think we were all taken by surprise with the Fantastic Four 94. But again, keep in mind that this video is filmed end of February 2021. You watch this video February 2022. None of this may matter. But I just think it's pretty interesting to talk about when it comes to talking about prices, the way they used to be and all that. So in the comments, let me know. What do you think? What do you think about some of these prices? What do you think that some other book, what do you think that, what books do you think may pop next? It'd be interesting to hear some speculation in the comments. Thank you all for watching. Take care and be safe.